Hi, my name's Kathy Emmett, and I'm a nurse consultant with Life Path of Good Shepherd Hospices, and we cover Highlands, Hardy, Polk, and Hillsborough counties. And hospice is a service that provides end-of-life care to people who are terminally ill. Federally, we can accept patients when their terminal diagnosis are expected to die of their terminal diagnosis within about 6 months. But in the state of Florida, actually, hospices can admit patients when they are terminal, expected to die within a year's period of time. When you're talking about somebody who's been told that they have a terminal illness and they may die within the next 6 months to a year, then I think hospice is an excellent option for them to think about. Hospice services are really focused on trying to help people make the most of the life that they have left. And so we focus really quite a bit on symptom management. And most people think about symptom management, they may think about pain control, which is a big part of what hospice does, but we can try to help control any physical symptoms that the patient may be having, whether it be shortness of breath, constipation, whatever symptom they are suffering from, we can help alleviate that suffering with a wide variety of medications and treatments. And that's primarily the job of the doctors and nurses that work with hospice. But hospice isn't just about helping people take care of their physical symptoms. It's also about helping take care of their psychosocial needs and their spiritual needs. And so we operate in hospice in what we call an interdisciplinary group. We have not only a doctor and a nurse, but we have social workers, we have chaplains, we have hospice aides, and we also use volunteers to help in caring for the patient and the family. The other thing about hospice is it's not just about caring for the patient, it's truly about caring for that patient and their family. And family is whoever the patient tells us is their family. And so we provide a lot of support, especially when you're talking about psychosocial support. The social workers sometimes spend more time with the family members than they do with the patient, helping them as they're going through that anticipatory grief process, knowing that their loved one may die soon, but also maybe helping them figure out financial issues. Things like advance directives is another thing that the social workers oftentimes spend a lot of time talking to the patients and families about. People have a right to make decisions about how much treatment they want. Frequently when they come to hospice, they may decide that they don't want to have what we call life-sustaining treatment. So if they had their heart stopped beating, they wouldn't want to be resuscitated. Or if they were having trouble breathing, they wouldn't want to be put on a ventilator. Or maybe if they're not taking in enough nutrition to continue to sustain their weight, that they wouldn't want to have a feeding tube put in. And all those things can be specified by the patient through something called an advance directive. They can also designate who they want to be their decision maker if they get to a place where they can no longer express their own wishes and their own desires. And so, again, the social workers sometimes will work with the patients to try to help them figure out, is their spouse maybe the best person to be that decision maker, or maybe an adult child, or maybe even a close friend might be the most appropriate person. When somebody's facing the end of life, even if they've never been involved with a religious group, or maybe they were raised in a certain religion but have not participated in that religion in some time, they may, if you're facing a life-limiting illness and thinking that the end of my life may come soon, people oftentimes have a lot of spiritual questions, and they may actually return to some of their spiritual roots. And so that's where our chaplains come in. Our chaplains are not there to promote any specific faith or denomination, but they're there to help the patient and their family through any spiritual questions or concerns, help them find their own way. Our chaplains sometimes also help reconnect these individuals maybe with faith communities. So somebody, for example, who maybe was raised Catholic but hasn't been to a Catholic church or been to confession or taken the sacrament in decades, they can help facilitate for a priest to come in and provide that opportunity for confession and to take the communion and even have that sacrament of the sick that is important in that particular religion. And the final thing, not the final, but one other thing about hospice is the volunteers. Hospice is the only organization that receives federal Medicare funding that's required to actually use volunteers. In fact, 5% of the care we give to patients has to be given through the use of volunteers. And so our volunteers do things like help visit with patients, maybe help sit vigil at the bedside of a dying patient. And this is something that is very comforting for family members to know, that maybe if they weren't able to get down to be with their loved one while they were dying, that a volunteer was with them, that that person didn't die alone, that there was somebody with them as they drew their last breaths. The other thing that is important to know about hospice, and as far as patient and family choice, is that hospice provides care wherever the patient is. So if the patient wants to be at home, hospice services can be provided there. If they're in an assisted living facility or a nursing home, hospice can be given to them there, can provide services to them there. And hospice can even provide services in most hospital settings. So even if a patient only has a few hours to live, I think it's still important to consider calling hospice in, because there may be services either through helping to relieve physical symptoms or the social symptoms, psychosocial symptoms, or the spiritual symptoms. But even more importantly than that, after the patient dies, those family members need bereavement services. And once again, hospice is kind of unique in the fact that when a patient dies under hospice care, their chart isn't closed. Usually if you died in a hospital, you died in a nursing home, the day of your death would be the day that chart is closed and no more new information gets added to that patient chart. In hospice, we keep that chart open for a year, actually 13 months, after the patient dies, because bereavement care is part of what every hospice is supposed to provide to the family left behind after that patient dies. And so we have bereavement counselors who can meet either one-on-one with the family members and the loved ones, or they can offer support groups, mailings. In some hospices, like the hospice that I work for, we actually have camps that we offer, and these are camps for children who have been affected by the loss of a loved one. It may have been a brother or sister, a mother or father, or a grandparent even. And each year we have a weekend set aside so that these kids who have been affected by a death can come together and can share in some of the experiences they've had and learn that they're not alone, that there are other kids going through the same thing, and gain strength from that. And those particular camps are also very much staffed by volunteers for the most part, volunteers that have been screened and have special skills and provide just wonderful care to these children over that weekend.